Everyone, I just am trying to get some things gelled up, and we'll see if that works. Also going to turn these lights up a little bit, and now we're ready to go. So I know my mic's working, I know my cameras are working. Hopefully you are there. I would love to hear from you. I'm doing this through Restream, and I haven't done Restream in a little while, so we'll see if I can see your chats. If I can't, I will go over to my trusty little computer and figure something out. So this is kind of an impromptu live anyhow about a couple of things I wanted to try out. And I was just a little cranky, so I thought, why not join you guys and have you brighten my day, and hopefully me brighten your day just a little bit. For those of you who are like, who the heck is this lady? I'm Kathy Hester of Healthy Slow Cooking and Plant-Based InstantPot.com, and there is a comment. I'm so happy. Hey, Marilyn. So sometimes I do things behind the scenes. And this was one of the things I was going to do, because Mia has given me 2 giant things of basil. So you guys who take my classes and watch Mia Left know that Mia is the basil lady, and she hates it when I call her that. So I love calling her that because she teases me sometimes. So Mia's going to just like give me a hard time about this. So this is older basil that I pulled the leaves apart on Monday. But we're going to talk about how you can make this without the perfect fresh picked basil, not because of her, but because of me. And also, what happens when you let those herbs just go too long? What if you just had better intentions at the farmer's market than you had time, effort, energy, brain space? Because perhaps that's happened to me. Sherry, it's good to see you. And Gina is here. Awesome. Maybe Apple will come by too. That'd be so cool. And thank you. Gina said she loved me on Chef AJ, and you should watch Chef AJ's. We did an Iron Chef. I, in fact, have decided this is Unicorn Week, and Max is coming up because he's realized I'm actually doing something. So he's stealing the cat food. But we'll see how long he behaves. Anyhow, it is awesome to have all of you guys here. So I gave you like 5 minutes notice to show up here. So thank you very much for just coming to hang out with me. I have some basil. And in fact, it was a giant bucket of basil, and it was a little overwhelming to me. So I just kept putting it off and putting it off. And I want to talk about, should you do something like that? You would never do anything like that, would you? Of course not. But let's just assume that one day you felt this way. Oh, and Marilyn says she has lots of basil ready to harvest. And Sherry hung out at the Iron Chef. And that was with Jill Dalton of Whole Food Plant-Based Cooking Show. And she is awesome too. And so anybody, if you go for it and comment. I am seeing comments from both Facebook and YouTube so far. I even see the icons like a grown-up. So I'm feeling like this is the turning point of my day. I needed you guys. So thank you. All right, so let's look at this. So remember, no judgments. This basil is not so fresh. And some of it's even like turning color a little bit, but it's not bad. And it's still quite pliable. To give you an idea, I took a couple of pieces out, which were these, because that's definitely crispy. Because we can dehydrate our basil, or when I was divvying this up, because some of it was already starting to dry. So listen, this is from the same batch. Can you guys hear that? Okay. Here we go. I know you can hear that. You're like, stop it. And basil smells so good in all of its various forms. It's really pretty happy. So one way, and you've probably seen this in movies or books, like you go into the witch's house and herbs are hanging down upside down, right? So these are dry from another time, but that could have been up on the shelf drying. Now, you'll see on that one in particular, there's a little mold on the stems. So if you're in a very humid climate, you might not want to do that. Some herbs will do that dry faster. You can do that too. But for these right now, I'm just letting them dry and I'm just kind of tossing them every once in a while. And I'll let you see this. Oh, we have another Sherry. Sherry Adams was also at the Iron Chef. You guys are so good to me. Thank you so very much for all your support. And hello, Jeremy. It is amazing to see you. So, again, I just want to kind of get the fact again. These are from the same ones. These were starting to dry at the bottom of the stems. And so when I was separating, because the stems were, this will be a better for this camera. The stems of basil were like this tall. So some at the bottom were starting to dry or around the side. So I just shook off some of those leaves. And there was when Mia brought this basil to me, she was like, throw away that other basil. And I was like, oh, no. And I made this giant cup of dried basil. Because I think what she didn't quite get is she gives me basil, but I use it all year. So that's a lot of dried basil. That's probably $10, $20 worth of dried basil if you got it at a specialty market. Oh, and Gina says she dries her herbs like a witch. I knew I liked you especially, which is kind of awesome. So what I'll do with this dried basil, and I'm going to do a little blog post because literally for this one, it was still all wet like this. So I could make this with this now or that. I just put it in the dehydrator. I believe they say to set it a little bit lower. And Marilyn, if you tell me what you set yours on, Marilyn is our resident dehydrator queen. And we can all bow to Marilyn because she's amazing. Everything I do pretty high. It won't hurt anything, really, if you do it a little bit higher, but I turned it down probably like 170-ish. I just kind of gave it a guess. What you can do, it's just important that it dries fast enough. It's not going to mold in your environment. So if you're in Arizona or California, that could be forever, right? You can totally leave things out. It's not going to mold. Here, if we leave, bread out for too long, it molds very quickly in the summer. It's just how it is in North Carolina. But I just did that overnight. And then you're still going to have some of these like little sticky stems. So you have, and I'll show you a little closer too. And Marilyn says the official is 105. So you can either take all these stems out if you want. I take some out, so the ones that were longer than this, you can go through. You can also grind these in a spice grinder. We could grind this and make this ground basil if we wanted to. These sticks don't bother me as much. I seem to catch these before they go into the stew. You guys know I do not care for rosemary that's whole. And I don't know unless it's fresh, because it will poke me right in my gum. And I feel like it's kind of an attack. So I just grind mine. And then you get that beautiful flavor with none of those weird mouthfeels. And Cheryl will pick all the big ones out, even in stew. So it just saves my sanity to just have to buy powdered rosemary or go ahead and grind it in the spice grinder. You do what you like the best for you. But when your friend Mia says, oh, just throw out that basil and it doesn't have mold in it, you tell her, no, my friend. I'm going to dehydrate it by hanging it up, putting it in your fancy dancy Breville, or I also have that super inexpensive round one with the layers that you can pick up at like thrift stores, usually for $10. And I think even new, they're less than $50. So you don't have to make a big investment. You could also do this in your oven, crack open the door, put it at the lowest setting. What you're going to find, like I had 3 full trays in my Breville. So with my Breville, that meant that it got all kinds of condensation. So you could crack it a little bit, but just kind of know what's going on. You don't want to just start rolling back on top of it. If I were a more patient person, I would have done it in 2 batches or gotten out my other dehydrator and done it in 2 different places. So just know you've got choices. Yay, Joanne is here. I feel like we're having a happy little family moment. So I've just been yammering on about basil. And so this is some basil that I got at the farmer's market that I didn't use. And it is mostly dried. It's that purple opal basil. So I'm going to dry it and put it separate. Okay, so we've talked about the basil from, it was probably about this much leaves, maybe even more, that just made this probably about a cup and a half of basil. We talked about how when I had this big stuff that I waited too long for, even on Monday, that I took the drier leaves, separated out. So that's going to be dry basil. If these dry all the way, I could put them in just as leaves, or I could crumble them. For me personally, I prefer to crumble them because it's just easier for me to deal with. If not, then I'm gonna have to go crumble it. What if it's like, oh, I just need a little bit for right now, right? So that's why I do it that way. So this is probably 3 to 4 cups of fresh basil. And some of this, like I said, could be dried, but I think it's gonna be fine. I'm gonna make some of this as pesto for today, and then I'm gonna freeze some pesto. Can anyone guess what the secret ingredient is that I'm gonna try instead of nuts today? Because this is experimental. I do not guarantee how it works yet. But I figure what we can do is we'll make the main basil paste, right, which is what pesto is, and we can put some garlic in there. We could do all kinds of things with that. So we can talk, I'm at the link for YouTube and on Facebook for this. Down at the bottom of the description, I put like 4 or 5 pestos that I found over on Healthy Slow Cooking. So if this one goes wonky, you still have plenty of recipes. So there's like a lemon basil, which is actually lemon basil. So those of you who are growing herbs may be growing lemon basil this year, and it imparts a beautiful flavor. But if you want to make a recipe that calls for lemon basil and you don't have it, you could use a little lemon zest. Or if you had some lemon balm, you could put a little lemon balm in there or something like that. Just something to give it that fresh kind of oomph. Okay, let's see what we got. We're getting some. Joanne says oats. Marilyn says oats. Nicole says beans. Brandy says cauliflower. You know, cauliflower would be a good idea, but I did not think of that. Oh, Gina, beans, cauliflower, or oats. And Sherry says white beans. And we could do white beans. I often will use white beans in places that I want something creamy. But the other one was cauliflower, and actually cauliflower, we're down to cauliflower and oats. If I did fresh cauliflower, it would give those little bites. So what I want to do is make something without nuts and without seeds, because I hung out with Chef AJ earlier this week and she can't have either. And it seems kind of mean to make something that she can't have. So I was thinking some people also use hemp seeds, pumpkin seeds in place of the pine nuts. I've used pecans. I think I used pecans in the oregano pesto, which is delicious if you can have nuts. But I was thinking rolled oats, when we crisp them up a little bit, so rolled oats is the winner. Woo! I'm not doing that because I just don't think I have that. I don't have it in me to clean that up. Just imagine, woo! Oats, confetti everywhere. Okay, so what I'm thinking of doing, because if I put the oats in first while I'm putting the wetter ingredients in, trying to make that paste, they're going to soak those up. I am also thinking this pesto with the oats would not be good to store together in the fridge, else it will become overnight pesto oats. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think there'll be more pesto than oats. So I think that would end up being not the best thing. So I'm going to say for right now, if you're thinking of storing it in the fridge for not today, but later on this week, I would crunch up the oats separately and add it before serving. Because I'm thinking if we're tossing it in, it should give it a little bit of a crunch. The other thing we could do too is we could toast these oats, but I'm being lazy. I'll probably put it in the recipe if the recipe turns out to toast the oats first. It'll give it a little bit more of a nutty flavor. See, Mia's in now. Oats was, Brandy said, Brandy, you get a prize anyhow just because you're Brandy. And that's all you need to do. Okay, and see, Mia missed the point. I said, Mia is going to come in here and go, what are you doing? And so actually, while Mia's here, Mia, you remember the basil you told me to throw out? This is like 2 cups of ground or rubbed basil to be precise, which is delicious, and it's going to feed my soups and stews all winter long. So Mia, I told them that it was too late and you were going to be mad, but of the big bundle that I had over there, it was a little overwhelming for me. I got the ones that were already kind of dry, separated those off. These are the ones that I feel are still usable. I will not be surprised if Mia is going to come and drop more basil on my doorstep. So, but you won't get here in time, Mia, so don't try it. So what I was thinking I would do, I'm going to put some of these in here. Since we're not using oil, we could use a lot of things instead of oil. We could use aquafaba. I'm not going to pack it too far down, so right now I'm probably doing 1.5 cups to 2 cups. I'm just going to put a drizzle of water in here because we just want it to puree into a paste. Now I could go ahead and add, okay, step it back, Kathy, step it back. Okay, 2 things we could do from right here, right now. A, no garlic, no other seasonings, just cool it. A little bit of liquid, puree your fresh basil and put them in ice cube trays. Because do you know what magic is? Magic is making a slow cooker bean stew in February. Pulling out your fresh basil, now frozen basil puree and putting it in there. Even compared to this beautiful dried basil, which is going to be far tastier and stronger than anything I'll be able to buy in February. This is going to feel like this is decadent vacation. I'll feel like I'm in Hawaii and I can hear the waves. I don't know. Probably I'll just be like, ooh, can I turn on the fireplace and have some pasta? Oh, and Sue is saying, what is the name of your YouTube lives? You can look up Kathy Hester on YouTube. And you're on Facebook. However you got here, you should see me somewhere. I'm not sure where you see my face. If you click on that, you can subscribe. But if you search Kathy Hester on YouTube, right now I'm the only game in town. There is a golfer named Kathy Hester as well. So I think you'll see the difference. But also, if you want, anybody who wants to can email me at kathyhester@gmail.com and ask me questions. I need to paste the link in. Or if Brandy or someone would like to give them my YouTube link, I would be much appreciative. And if you can't, that's okay too. So Sue, just email me if nobody posts it up. And if you post it up, I'll show you. So I put a teeny bit of water, not enough, most likely. But I want to show you what, and it's not done yet. Okay, let's give you something that's in. It's Kathy Hester on YouTube is what Joanne says. So you can kind of see it's still coming down really a lot. So we could even add a little bit more in here. That's kind of the goal. I could use something bigger, but I would not want to use, I could use this smaller Ninja container, but I think even this larger Ninja container, things are going to get stuck and it's just going to be unwieldy. We're probably going to put the oats in something. I'm going to go ahead and do, again, I'm not sure if I did more than 2 teaspoons of water, so I'm probably doing another teaspoon. This could be non-dairy milk. For sure. Oh, yay! Sue found it and subscribed. Thank you so much, Sue. So here's the deal, you guys. And today is the day that it starts. I was not going to do a live. I've got my Crocs on behind this counter. It's a sad state of affairs. But I want to just get where I'm just coming back on and popping in and doing some things. Because I miss you guys so much. Last month I was going to be doing this, but I got a sinus infection and excuses. So, more fun for us. And Kimberly says, hi from Prescott. So she is in Arizona where she can keep her basil out and hamburger buns and other things like that. And by hamburger buns, I mean chili pepita potato burgers. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, go to healthyslowcooking.com and look up potato burgers because you need them. And so Kimberly also says she's camping in Idaho. Oh, that's awesome. Oh, on your air garden. That is very, very cool. I like the idea of having fresh herbs all year long. Okay, now let's see if I did a good thing or, ooh. One of the things I like about this is that I can shake it as it gets stuck. Which I can't really do with the Ninja or the Vitamix. So Milsey doesn't make these anymore, but you can get tons of these on Amazon. They're just handheld immersion blenders, and this comes off like it attaches to the immersion blender part, and this is just a little chopper, and I love this little chopper so much, though I didn't do it any favors. Okay, and it's not all the way either. I'm just wanting to get some of this down so I can get a little bit more in, right? Although I think it's clumping up enough that maybe I need to just chill out and let this go a little bit longer. We can make 2 batches too. So this one can be just basil for the freezer if we wanted it to. Let me add just a tiny bit more water because it's a little bit waterlogged, but not in the way I need it to be waterlogged. You know what I mean? And that helps you not at all, seeing that top part. Okay, I'm going to put in some more. And if it were super fresh, if Mia had given me better basil, we wouldn't be having all these problems now. This is not Mia's fault. Though I know it's making her crazy for me to say that. And if you knew how much Mia picked on me, you would be supportive of me doing that. Do just a little bit more and add the rest of that. It smells really good, you guys. And that counts for a lot too. It's like aromatherapy. You're joining me in a little aromatherapy session. And anything else in the bottom there, I'm just gonna, I don't know, put in the part to dry so I can use it again. And I cleaned all this off really well. And let's see if we need more water or not. Let's try it first. I'm thinking maybe not. Yay! I see apple. I spy apple with my little apple eyes. Yay! Cheers everywhere. Oh, Leslie, thank you very much for putting up with my antics today. I was working on something on the computer today. about to burst into tears because I was so frustrated. And I'm like, you know, there are a lot of things I get to do with my job. Why don't I do something I like? Hang out with you guys. That is always a choice, and that's going to be my default. Having a bad day, hanging out with you guys. Not sure what to make for dinner, hanging out with you guys. I like that all the way. And, oh, and Joanne, that's a great question. Is this food processor easy to clean? Yes, it is. What's not easy to clean on it is if it has any oily elements. Like, so, you know, just like today, I'm showing you something I haven't made before, which is what crazy people do. So I ground up a bunch of turmeric in there like a crazy person would do, and it was stained and really hard to get off. Shocker, right? So if you do irresponsible things, it could be hard to clean. If you do normal things, it will be super easy. It just comes apart. You know, it doesn't have all the nooks and crannies where everything gets caught. And Mia, excuse me, I'm driving over right now. See, I told you, she's like 40 minutes away, or I'd be afraid she's going to ring my doorbell with, I don't know, like 4 arms full of basil. And then I'm going to make her stay with me and pick all those leaves off. So just know that's what will happen if you come here. And Apple is here. We love Apple. And you don't get the aromatherapy part, but hopefully my facial expressions does it for you. Yeah, is it helpful? No, I didn't think so. And yay, and everybody's just here and happy. Okay, let me squish some more basil. So I'll show you from above again what we're looking at. And this would not take this long if I was not talking and yammering with you guys. This really is like a 10-minute sort of process, start to finish. So don't fret if your signature like, I don't have all day to make this, lady. It's okay. And there's enough basil, I probably could have made it in the other thing. And maybe we'll transfer it over, because I'm feeling very contrarian. Doesn't that sound like a motor? This is my motorcycle, people. This is as loud as I get. Okay. Obviously, it's been a tough day, hasn't it? So this part just comes off like this, and I'll show you this underneath. Oh, maybe I will. There we go. So see, I just need to rinse that with the spray. The spray head, done. Nothing to do here. Okay. And then this comes out, and that's really easy to rinse off. Oh, and that's awesome. So Kimberly has an immersion blender at home. It's great. Well, it's this attachment that came with it, and I think almost all of them are coming with that now. Okay, so I'm going to bring out the Ninja. Oops, here, let me show you let me actually get where the camera is. So it doesn't have to be this Ninja. We're going to put some of this stuff in the little cup because I think I do want to put some garlic in with this. I want to make this full-on pesto. And then I'm also going to use my little spice grinder attachment for it to kind of grind up our oats. And I'm even thinking, because you have me so inspired, that and the induction burner is here, so maybe we'll toast our oats a little bit too. We're gonna get crazy up in here. All right, spatula. Here we go. Check, spatula. So I am going to crush a couple of garlic cloves to go in here. I usually just put some garlic cloves and maybe some nutritional yeast. You could do some salt. And for those of you who may be new to me or didn't watch the live on Monday with Chef AJ, this I call my plain salt substitute. It's 1 tablespoon of garlic powder 1 tablespoon of onion powder, 1 teaspoon of ground celery seed. That look was Max. I thought Max had his head on top of the kitty. The kitty is not in the kitty's bed. So that I was like, oh, what's going down? Is that Maxie? You want to come say hi? Come here. Come on. Come on, say hi to everybody. No, come on this way. Come on. Look that way. Look that way. Look that way. Okay, nobody's getting this pesto but me and Cheryl. So I know I'm touching the dog and cooking. And I kissed the dog even. So don't worry, I promise not to give this to anybody. But if you have an animal, chances are you eat some animal hair. Okay, so I'm doing the smushy the garlic, right? So in case you haven't done this before, just in case, right? Hey, Ashley, awesome to see you here. So we want to make it where it's kind of doesn't rock a lot. And if it's rocking a lot, this side is a little more stable than, let's say, I think this side is a little more moving. And then put the blade flat. Take out your problems. Right? So I'm just going to take that off. It's okay if it's a little smashed. It's okay if it's not smashed. We're going to put it in the blender anyhow. What I am going to do is just cut those little tips off. Those little dry pieces and put over in the pile that I will clean up later. All right. I am also going to do a light chop just to make it easier. Because the blender's life can be easier, our life can be easier. It's all good. And Joanne says she has the Breville immersion blender that came with a ton. I bet it did. I was trying to look at that one and it wasn't available for order a while ago. I am still, you guys, thinking about getting the Breville food processor. I know Joanne, I think Brandy, do you have the Breville as well? So this was probably about 4 garlic cloves or maybe 3 tablespoons is what I'm guesstimating from It's funny how I can tell how many tablespoons and cups are sitting on here when I have zero idea on the distance from one thing to another. Like, I am pathological about that. Hi, Max. Are you just hanging out with us today? You're so good. I know I need a garbage truck. I was going to use this, and actually I will use this now. I had put just a few pieces of basil. Joanne, what I need is I need you to live near me so that we can be doing these things together. Actually, all of you guys. I would love it if you guys live near here. And now Maxie's just standing here behind me like, she's not yelling at me to go away. What's going on? And let's see. Ashley said, my partner bought me a Vitamix. I can't stop putting everything in it, even though they shouldn't go in. Oh, yeah. Oh, and I have it over here. Nope, those are the bags I'm going to demo this week. I have a whole bunch of things that I'm going to demo. I'm trying to see. So I don't have it right here. We talked about this either in class or live. The small containers for the Vitamix, I have them and I haven't used them. I've been saving them for a live, but I forgot till just now. So thank you for reminding me, Ashley. And I got the Ninja just because I kind of felt that it's not fair to tell someone they have to buy a $400 blender to make a recipe. Okay, that's not going to do well until we get the other stuff in. This is Max's most hated blender too. But he did such good. He was a good boy. Yes, he was. I should have hooked up a third camera so we could have like maxi vision. And Kimberly says NC is too humid. It is very humid. Oh! Apple, you have just made my entire month of August on day 4. Says that I'll move to the Isle of Kathy. How sweet. And Marilyn, because she is amazing, keeps the garlic peels in a Ziploc in the freezer and uses it when she makes broth. And see, I don't make broth, I only make bouillon, because those are too many pieces for me to keep up with on a super regular basis. But I think it is a brilliant thing. I'm not anti-broth or anything like that, but that's why I do bouillon, because then I can make it all at once and I don't have to save things. Sometimes, like with this basil, I can save things far too long. And I think that's a personal issue. And you can kind of see in here, there's just almost nothing in here to keep you from really cleaning. Now we may need a little more water in here. We could also be using non-dairy milk of any kind to make it creamy. Okay, and let's see if this is going to work. Experiments are exciting. I feel like I need a theme song for these like mad scientist experiments. Mia, can you put one of Mia's kids writes songs? So maybe you gonna do it? You can do it. It's like, no, I can't. Here, let's put a little milk in there. That'll help it make creamy. And fresher basil would make a brighter green pesto. We could also add some lemon juice to keep that greener longer in the fridge. I'm going to put like, let's try a tablespoon to a tablespoon and a half. This may still not be enough. All I really want to do is get that garlic ground up a little bit. And the thing I don't like about the Ninja is that once you open it, it never wants to close back exactly right without making a mess. Come on. I know you got it now. Well, I may just put it back in that food processor because this is just not doing it for me. So that was a waste of time, but it was exciting. Let's see what we got. Yeah, we were talking about for Kathy's Cooking Club, which is my monthly cooking class membership that you guys are all welcome to join. You can go see that over on kathyhester.podia, podia.com. And I've been saying when the world rights itself a little bit, it would be nice if we did like an in-person meetup where maybe we rented a house and did like, like a retreat, a cooking retreat. But basically, a lot of the people that you see here are in Kathy's Cooking Club and hang out a couple times a week and we make some cool stuff. Last month we made, and I think we're probably going to make dinners again this week, or this month. So I actually did Thai and Vietnamese. So I was thinking, since we've all been kind of trapped at home, let's make a whole dinner. And last month I did the classes during the week, so we actually had dinner right after the class, which was pretty cool. And Ashley said she's going to move, yay, to the Isle of Kathy. I like that. Maybe that's what my YouTube channel should be, the Isle of Kathy. And Ashley says, this is me with my tiny KitchenAid food processor. Yeah, well, and what I should have done is done the garlic first. So you are seeing truly how I make up recipes. And then I go back and I fix them for you. I make these mistakes and then I go, don't do that. That's silly. And it's usually because I've done it. And Connie says, is there a posted recipe for this pesto? No, I am making it up right this very second out of my little brain. However, the plan is that I will be making a recipe if it turns out well. if it doesn't, that's why you have all those other pesto recipes. In case this was like, you've got plenty others that really work that have been written out to choose from. Oh, Gina, that would be so much fun. And I did a couple of retreats with Howard where we actually did some cooking and exercise, like we were doing his Sick to Fit program, and I was doing some cooking classes there. But I think it could be really cool. We could get a really big house. We could bring Cheryl to do the dishes. We could bring Mia so she would bring herbs. Marilyn, we just need to come get you so that you can help us through all of that. We'll drive you. Interesting. That's really cool. Joanne's saying she left her silk almond milk next to the kefir hotel. She makes her own kefir. And the milk turned into kefir in the fridge. That's kind of amazing. That's really funny. So experiments abound. But again, Connie, I am not trying to deflect your question. I just don't know yet. See, this is doing much better. Yeah. So it'll be, in the comments, it'll be, don't use your blender if you have a small food processor. It works better with less liquid. And I'm just shaking this around to see if I can, and I may use this, my scraper too, to get some of these bigger pieces of garlic closer to the bottom where they'll puree. It smells really good as is. And another thing, and maybe this is something that I will do, is I definitely would say as an option, you could just use granulated garlic, and then we wouldn't have this foolish mess that I've put myself in. So that's always a good solution. I'm going to do a little bit more silk. And so probably what I would say is about 4 cups of basil, 4 cloves of garlic. I'm going to go ahead and put some nooch in here. Let's see. I'm going to do a 1/4 cup of nooch. You could use that salt substitute. 1 tablespoon onion powder, 1 tablespoon garlic powder, 1 teaspoon ground celery seed mixed together. I went a step further and put it all in the spice grinder because I'm that way. So I'm probably going to put, because we're only going to use a little bit for a lot of pasta, so I'm going to put between 1/2 teaspoon and a teaspoon of salt in here. And you could probably, usually with the plain salt substitute, I start lower because we can't take it out, right? So this already has garlic in it, so maybe it will be enough sooner than if we hadn't put garlic in it. And if you can't have garlic, you can totally leave it out. It is not the prettiest color, but it is the delicious color. So I'll probably have to, actually I may have to wait to put it up on the blog. That's really good. Oh, and it's a little spicy. So it's definitely a darker color because I didn't use the freshest basil. It's got a little spicy from the garlic. And here's the thing, we could stop right here. That is possible. And just use this for the pesto. Oh, roasted garlic would be a great idea, Joanne. That is a great idea. I'm telling you right now, usually before I come on a live, I think things through a little more. I was just like, I'm coming on to experiment. So let's also go ahead and I'm going to lightly grind up some rolled oats and then we'll toast them. I'm going to do it that way just because. Oh, you like the dark green? Okay, yay, team dark green. Usually it's a bright green. And again, some of it has to do with the age of the basil, which is my fault, again, not Mia's. I'm just going to take a handful, or probably about 2 tablespoons to 3 tablespoons. And I'm going to see if I can just pulse it in here for a second. Maybe this is where I should have used the blender. I'm not going to do the extract. I'm just really going to pulse it. There we go. I pulsed it 3 times and that was it. I want to keep it kind of coarse because what I want it to do is kind of give you a little bit of that crunch mouthfeel. And I think I'm going to suggest that these get added. Oop. Maybe it's not plugged in anymore, it's just there. So, yep. Let's see how much Cheryl unplugged. Actually, that didn't fit in this one. I wish you guys could, actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm glad you guys can't see my mess back here. All right. Dun, 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 dun. We're just going to toast it a little bit. And then I'm going to mix some of this up. And I'll use like a small bowl. And that'll be the pesto that we do tonight. And we can lightly toast these anywhere. But I'm hoping this is going to give it some of the bulk that nuts do. And I think that sometimes the oil-free, nut-free community misses out on some of that bulk. Yeah, I'm hoping it could be some of the Parmesan and also maybe a little bit of the nut. Because when people use things like hemp seed, after they're ground a little bit, they're kind of like this too. But you get that gritty texture. I'll turn it down a little bit. Just because it is the induction burner. Yeah, the dark green takes it to a different dimension. This would be a good Halloween pesto. Because you know, we're just 2 steps away from Halloween in my mind. And I am ready for it. So have you noticed, if you've been anywhere, they're starting to put out Halloween decorations. So Cheryl and I grabbed a few already. And I'm very excited about that. There was one at the Cracker Barrel, and we went there just to look at Halloween decorations. And it looks like those old-timey Christmas trees. Right? Those ceramic ones with the little things in the star at the top, only it's black and there's a pumpkin at the top. And it's so cute. We haven't gotten it out yet, but I may show you in a minute. Okay, so I'm just going to take out a couple of tablespoons. That's enough for us for pasta. We could take out a little bit more. And this is how I would do it. I will probably freeze the rest of this separately. And this, even though it has garlic, I could still put it in stews, put it on pasta, anything I want when I can't get the fresh basil. And so, just like when we're cooking our oats for gumbo, or we're using them as a roux, remember, we smell them. At first, they smell like oats. Then, they start to smell a little toasty, and then they're going to smell a little nutty. And that's what we want to go for. We want to get that extra flavor in there as well as some of that texture. And I wouldn't put the oats together with this too soon. It's not super moist, but I would like it to kind of retain some of its mouthfeel. And because it will still absorb the liquid that's there. So let's say if I don't use this today, if Cheryl comes home and goes, no pasta for us, we're doing X, Y, and Z with a friend, then tomorrow I may have to do something a little different. So maybe I would put it as a layer in a lasagna, either using zucchini strips and eggplant strips or using pasta. Either way would work, because then I could add that sauce, and the oats that are already kind of mushy would thicken up the sauce instead of just being, you know, Pesto means paste, but we don't want it to go to like grade school paste, right? There we go. Smelling those nutty consistency. And let me see if you may or may not be able to see that much. See how it's a little bit darker? Yeah, so we want to turn that off. And now I have all the spatulas. Okay, and I may not need to use all this, but let's put in a couple of tablespoons to start off with. And bigger bowl or smaller stirry thing. Let's do smaller stirry thing. And one of the pestos I mentioned was an oregano pesto, which is a great autumn pesto. So when you've got to pull up the last of that oregano, you can freeze some of that too. And again, that's wherever you're watching this, it's in some of the notes. So see how this has got some little crunchies. And that's what I'm going for. If you use super fresh basil, yours will be lighter. And it is okay either way. Just know that. We love you, basil, no matter what you look like. Okay, so I'm going to take a big old taste of this. I like it. It gives it a little bit more of a chewy consistency. And again, too, I'm not sure what's spicy in here. This one does taste spicy. I don't think it's from the garlic. I'm wondering if there was another herb that Mia had mixed in with the basil that I got. But it's quite good. And you could put in some more oats if you wanted to. And again, it just kind of depends. But I like this texture. I like to have just a tiny bit of chew in this. Okay? And this experimental here, we'll put some more chew in there. Let's add all of it. I can always put more of the other basil in there if I need it, if I've gone too far. And I think too, like what Apple was mentioning a minute ago, how we make Parmesan with nuts, salt, and nutritional yeast, there's no reason we couldn't do that with this. And in fact, perhaps we should. Right now, let's see, how long have I been on here? I've been on here almost an hour. Maybe we'll do it real quick. Yeah, I think that's quite good. Okay, so I'm going to do this really quick. I'm going to do it with salt because Cheryl is going to want to do this. And let's give that a go. Let me toast these oats first. So I'm going to do a 1/4 cup. I'm going to toast let's do 1/2 cup of oats. I really should have brought something to write this down with, but we'll try and make it easy. It'll probably be a 1/2 cup of oats, a 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast, and there'll be salt to taste. And then let's make a nut-free Parmesan substitute, because I like that idea too. Okay. Move these guys. Move along. You are no longer needed. Get my paper towel and get some of this gunk off my counter. So again, we're lightly toasting. We could do this in the oven. We could do this just in a pan like this. Whatever you want. We're not toasting it forever, maybe less than 5 minutes probably. You can start it at quite a high heat. Just make sure you keep smelling it so you know when to take it off. And I messed up my little blender, but I think we can use this guy for this one. So let's go ahead and let's put about 1/2 cup of nutritional yeast. This is an eighth of a cup. So we're going to do 4 of these. 2, 3, 4. I'm going to turn that down because I'm starting to smell it without getting too close to it, which is not necessarily my ideal. And because to me, Parmesan is a condiment. It's a very salty condiment. So we could use our plain salt-free blend. I am probably going to go on up there and put a couple of teaspoons of salt in here. This is something we would use on top of pastas, salads. I'm going to put 2 in there and see if I need more. And Joanne says it's amazing how much people are missing out of on your oatmeal cookbook being available if they don't know where to find it. I think there are still maybe some copies at virtualvegfest.com. Okay, I think I'm coming close to. Those are nutty and they are right on the edge of perhaps. If I smelled this and this smelled burned, it's more important for it to go into the garbage. Okay, I'm going to put these in here. Okay, so we had a half a cup of oats, 1/4 cup of, oh, I need to dag nabbit. I got to wash the bottom of this and dry it off real good. So close, but yet so far. Okay. It would be better to have this super dry. So I may read some comments and things like that while we're just wrapping this up in a towel a little bit. And Ashley says she always uses sunflower seeds for pesto for more affordable, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with using nuts or seeds. I just want to make sure everybody has an alternative that fits in their own diet. That's all. And I love how many things we can do with oats, so I want to see how many more we can do. And Gina says, if you don't eat pasta or bread, how would you use the pesto? You could put it over a baked potato with some tomato sauce, a little bit of oat nacho cheese sauce, or without the nacho cheese, you could put it like with an oil-free cheese sauce. And I've got like the cauliflower queso, got a potato queso. Both of those are, one's on plantbasedinstantpot.com, one is on healthyslowcooking.com. The nut-free queso is made with oats. You could just leave out the like chili spices and use that. You could make a vinaigrette with it. So we could put some aquafaba or something like that and make a nice vinaigrette. What else could we use it for? You could put it over zoodles, any other pastas, spaghetti squash, things like that. That would work really well. And Apple is saying like on roasted vegetables, soups, rice. It's really great on all those things too. And Joanne says, my lawn service keeps whacking my basil. I talk to him and then I get a new guy. You need to like put some little sign like, don't you do it. You need a picture of me doing this? Grumpy old lady that you can put in your garden. And Sandra would put it over baked potatoes. And oh, you're so sweet. It's funny because the Outrageous Oat book is the first one of mine that went out of print. But I still have some copies. If you order through virtualvegfest.org, I can even sign your copy if you put it in the note. Should you want to, just let me know. Cheryl mails it out with her own little hands. Ooh, and Joanne is making a vegan omelet. Yummy. We made these really nice coconut crepes with rice flour and coconut milk. There is a coconut milk option to do less fat. for the Vietnamese class, and those were so good. I ate on those all week. Yeah, and no, you're not so simple. Everybody has their favorites, and since it's not your favorite yet, that way it seems all new. And that's why we all want to come together as a community, because even me, we all get bored with what we're making. Like sometimes I'm like, what am I going to make this time? Or like last month when I was sick, Cheryl got a lot of takeout because she doesn't cook that much. So once you're kind of into that habit that food magically appears, you stop thinking about all the things you should be doing, or all the little steps that add up into that big time saving. You are so welcome, Gina. So very welcome. Okay, let's blend this puppy up. I'm just going to pulse it. I'm going to pulse it more than I did for the other. Because since I was able to dry the top enough, you can see how it flows really well. We don't want this to get wet. We don't want to do that when it's even cashew Parmesan, because then it'll mold faster. We don't want it with the oats, because then it's going to get thick. Okay. And I'm just going to shake this a little bit extra. Oh, it smells good. Oh yeah, it only needed 1 teaspoon of salt. It did not need 2 teaspoons of salt. Whoa! So we will use that as just like a little sprinkle seasoning. And okay, another thing we could use this for right now, instead of just using it as Parmesan, I would put it over potatoes. I usually put a little bit of non-dairy milk and some vegan Parmesan or nutritional yeast and a little salt in a pinch on Cheryl's broccoli and make like a faux sauce. It's not a real sauce. But this also would be good to use as a gravy starter. Because if we added this in, the oats are going to act as the thickener. So we can make like a chickeny gravy. But I think what I want to do, we put a quarter cup of nooch. I think I'm going to put a half cup of nooch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you see why I buy it in pound bags too. And I usually just get, I know everybody has their favorite, and so far I haven't found one I hated. I usually just get the Frontier one, because that's what I usually buy out of bulk bins anyhow. And I'm just going to pulse this a little bit more. I probably could even do more oats, and that's something that maybe I'll do in a second. We'll try this. Let's see if that's a little better balanced. And I could also put some garlic powder in here. A little bit better. We could put some garlic powder in here. We could put some basil powder in here, or rosemary powder if we wanted to make it like Italian pasta Parmesan or something like that. But this is a dry blend, and I'm going to put this in a mason jar. And I think I have, from one of my vitamins, one of those desiccant packs. And sometimes they look like this. I think I have another one. Let me see if I can get this one out. To a pill. I have a thyroid pill I have to take every day. So it has a really big one. And this would be even better. Because see, you can even hear it sounds like a salt shaker. And that would help keep all that dry. So we'll be putting one of these in with that. Did I have a half a cup? No, I think I only had no, you're right, I had a half cup of nooch. You are right. So I just put a cup of nooch in there. So let's put another half, let's do some more oats. And I'm also going to put this, let me see if I have a container. I don't think I have a glass container right here, but I do have, this will work, and this is airtight as well. So I'm going to pour this in. The reason I'm pouring this in now is I don't want to grind the oats down where I don't see them at all. And so you can see some texture in there. Get that in there. And then I'll grind those oats and put them in there. So let's do, because it didn't take very long to do that anyhow. Let's put another half cup of oats in here. And I think that would balance it out. Thanks, Marilyn. You know what? Yeah. Part of me's like, maybe I should put this in. Maybe I should put that in. Maybe I should just get this right first. Don't you think? Just for a second. I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am. That's all I have to say. I'll move some of this stuff away. Max does, I don't know if you could hear the car go vroom, vroom, but Max does not like that. That is what he is. You're telling him to cut that out. Max is like, don't go fast. Max. Hasn't he been a good boy on this one? Until now, he's been a good boy. Okay, I'm going to turn this down a little bit, and I'm going to let him go on the deck so that he can fuss. He's a little middle-aged puppy now, and he needs to go tell somebody to stay off our lawn. I think I transferred my grumpy over to him. Joanne, short-term memory is the first to go. Well, mine's been gone for a while. And so again, I'm already smelling that change. So I'm going to take the heat down a little bit. I was playing Daredevil by running around with this pan on with something that's going to be done fairly soon. I encourage you to be better people than me. And you can kind of see probably a few things turning slightly darker. I know it's hard to see on this lens. I am thinking about getting a different overhead camera that can show us some more details. So smell again. Now it's starting to smell nutty. Even if I turn this off, even though the induction burner is going to go cold, this pan is still warm, so it's still going to toast up a little bit. So it's okay. So just know that you don't have to worry to that level of detail. Okay. Okay. Take these extra little oats. I am just going to mix these up a little bit, and then we're going to shake it all together. Here we go. My chiropractor wouldn't love me manhandling all this. Don't tell her. Okay. There we go. It's okay, Maxie. Maxie's like, what's going on? What's happening to the mommy? He's like, there's my food sources in there. Okay. So I'll show you from up above too. Do you hear Kitty? Did you hear Kitty go meow? There we go. Okay, so and we can put them right on top so you can see them real good. Just going to hit this a little bit. Use my dry spatula to scrape some of it off. Again, this is a mixture we do not want to get moisture on, because then it's going to be clumpy vegan Parmesan. And while I can put up with a lot, that's a little bit too much to ask. Okay, and I'll show you. And Gina, you can see it browning. Okay, awesome. So Joanne can see it browning. Gina can see it getting darker. And it's so fast. So like right now, what you're going to see is the layer of the Parmesan that was too salty and the oats. This is a really great airtight container. When I'm talking about marinating things, these are the ones I really like, because if you have tofu, evidently some of the tofu is going to stick out. Then you just flip it over and let that part marinate. So usually I just flip it back and forth in the fridge a little bit. Let's see if doubling that fixed my salt. Yes, yes it did. Now again, you don't have to use salt for this. Oop. Okay, and I'll just kind of, you can kind of see while I'm mixing it. See how it's crumbly? It looks a lot like that expensive vegan Parmesan that you buy in the little Parmesan jars at Whole Foods. Only this did not cost that much. The oats probably cost nothing, because I have like a 15 or 20 pound bag of gluten-free rolled oats. So that was free. The salt was free. So whatever a cup of nutritional yeast costs, that's pretty much how much I would have paid for this. Now, we could easily make less of this. Ooh! And Kimberly is saying to use the basil as a sandwich spread, yay, with grilled veggies. And Gina, if you don't do bread, what you could do is you could put it in a collard wrap or a romaine wrap. See where we're going with all this? So there's so many different ways you can do it, and there's some really good gluten-free vegan wraps if it's because you're gluten-free. If you're just not eating any flours, I totally get that. But if someone out there is like, are you doing that just because you're gluten-free? There are always options. Like maybe in the summer bread seems too heavy, but you could lightly steam a collard wrap. Or since I can't have gluten anymore, one of my favorite things to do when we go out for a veggie burger, because most of the gluten-free buns are Udis, which have egg in it. But I love getting, they say a lettuce bun or a lettuce wrap. Basically, they take a head of iceberg and slice off the ends and just put it in there. And I've really gotten to enjoy that. So you could even do that with a veggie burger, a little bit of the pesto, sprinkle some of the Parmesan on. You could add a little bit of tomato sauce. You could kind of make yourself an Italian burger, or grill eggplant steaks and make eggplant Parmesan with basil, or just make a stack. You could even just cook or grill slices of eggplant, zucchini, maybe some tomatoes, and slather in between the pesto. I think that would be pretty delicious. And then I like Apple's suggestion of putting it over rice too, so we could have some rice to catch all the stuff, all the juices from the vegetables and the pesto that fell out. I think that sounds delicious. Let's see what I missed. Gina loves collard wraps. I am so not surprised. And Marilyn, ooh, an herbal salt blend that she makes similar to Herbamare. Marilyn, you may have to be sharing at some point. So if you don't know, pretty much everybody who's in here hanging out, being super friendly, they are over in my free private Facebook group, Vegan Recipes Cooking with Kathy Hester. It's a community where you get to ask questions and share pictures of things you make or just what your dinner is. It's a lovely community, and it's both vegans and plant-based and people who just do meatless Mondays. So no matter where you are on the spectrum, you can ask your questions and get answers. So please do join me over there. Again, Vegan Recipes Cooking with Kathy Hester. What else do I say? You can get recipes at healthyslowcooking.com. Not all slow cooking, for everything, because if you sat through an hour of me, you know why. Everything doesn't make sense with me. It's an older blog. It started out being only slow cooking. Plant-based Instant Pot, however, is all Instant Pot recipes. So no logic involved. Yeah, when I started talking about that eggplant stack, I was like, that does sound good. And I was just thinking of all the yummy juices that would be coming out from the veggies. Mixing with that pesto would be pretty delicious. Okay, do you guys have any questions for me? I'm not sure yet if I'm going to put up that pesto recipe because I don't think it's the best one. I think it's the first one. I think what it morphed into being this oat Parmesan, I think I like this better. And I think what I would normally do now, obviously, an hour later, now that I have some facts in front of me, I think instead of keeping those toasted oats separately and adding it in like nuts, it would be much nicer to just sprinkle on this on top of the pesto. And the oats are a little bit smaller, so you'll still get a little bit of that chew, that mouthfeel, that texture, and that nuttiness from the toasted of the oats. So if I had to say, this is the winner. So I think this one is going on the blog. And if I'm right, and Marilyn, oh great, Marilyn's going to post a link for the salt blend. And if anybody like Marilyn, Joanne, or anybody wants to email me at kathyhester@gmail.com, I do believe we have 1 cup of oats, 1 cup of nutritional yeast, to 1 teaspoon of salt or salt substitute. I think that's what the thing is. And then we can talk about all the optional things we can put in there because we could put in granulated garlic. We could put some onion powder in there. We could put some Italian seasoning, which is like basil, oregano, and rosemary. And I would do all of these dried spices because we want this still to be dried mix. So we can make it plain like this. And then if I wanted to, I could put a couple of teaspoons in something and blend it with some basil. Or honestly, if I was looking at putting this kind of basil in, I probably would just crunch it in there. You just want to make sure whatever herbs that you're putting into this mixture now, because the nutritional yeast is super dry, the oats have been toasted dry. You may live in a dry climate. I live in the extra humid climate. So I'm going to put one of these desiccant packs from vitamins or medicines or whatever. It's always the ones that say, do not eat. They're also like in the bottom of crackers and stuff. If you were to eat it, it will not kill you, but it will make you feel really bad because it's going to dehydrate you from the inside out. So that's why we keep it away from children and things like that. So if you're storing it in something like this, either you dole it out, or if you have a kid, maybe have a little bit where the kid can get to it, and the bigger one with the desiccant pack in it. Oh, I'm about to choke on a tiny, tiny piece of oat. I do have water. Woohoo! Maybe it was all talking about that dehydration thing got to me. All right, so Marilyn's going to post a link in the Facebook group for her herb salt. I will be making a post about this. Lovely, no nut, oat Parmesan, oatazan. No, that doesn't sound very good, does it? You could also email me with a cool, clever name for my new oat Parmesan cheese. And if you have some ideas for variations or anything like that, let me know. And if you email me, I will credit you. If you're just telling me now, I will try to credit you. But I may forget. Oh, and Sandra says she doesn't have Facebook. Any chance of getting it elsewhere? How about this, Sandra? And it could be Sandra or Sandra. I'm sorry, whichever one is right, I'm trying to say. You email me at kathyhester@gmail.com, and when Marilyn puts it up, I'll email it to you. Deal? I think that sounds good. So what did we learn today? We learned that when Kathy is cranky, she should hang out with her friends online. Check. it's good to experiment with things, and everything may not turn out perfectly as you saw it in your head when you're experimenting with it. And that's okay, right? We may get to different ideas. The basil isn't bad. I know that Cheryl isn't going to like it. Something tastes a little spicy for her. I'm still going to use it on a lot of things. What I would use it is a little more sparsely, and maybe I'll even thin it down with a little more non-dairy milk. So when you do an experiment, then you have this thing. It's important not to go, that's not that beautiful green pesto that I remember when I ate dairy. Of course it's not, right? You go, what's going on here? What can I change? What does it smell like? What smells good with it? There are all kinds of things you can do. Okay. And probably some of that I think would be really good. It's strong, so I think it would be delicious with beans or in a soup or a tomato sauce. A little bit more than just a plain pesto. And I think probably I should have added more oats to it or more liquid to it. That's why I'm telling you I'm not giving you the recipe necessarily. I think it's not quite there, but you do have a whole bunch that are. I think with the oregano pesto and I think with the parsley kale, I may use some oil in some of those recipes. So know this, you can use aquafaba in place of that oil. You can use non-dairy milk in place of that oil. The only thing is the oil makes it last longer in the fridge. It preserves it more, whereas those liquids like water and non-dairy milk are not going to do that. So you might want to freeze it a lot sooner or use it up faster. So those are some things about that. Oh, and thanks so much for being forgiving about your name. And Gina, I love hanging out with you guys. And one of the things I've been doing is working with some virtual assistants that have been helping me, and I'm going to be introducing at least one of them in the group soon. And you may have seen her, Bea. It looks like B, but they say Bea in the Philippines where she's from. And one of the reasons I wanted to get some people to help me is so I could do more lives again, because this is the best part. This and making recipes and doing the two together is just magic. And Joanne says things don't always turn out how I thought they would, but sometimes it's better. Exactly. And I think I want that to be a lesson of today. So I'm not like, woohoo! I thought I was going to be like, yeah, oat pesto's the best. No, you know what I'm saying? Oat Parmesan is the best. But, you know, I would have never gotten here without going there and without Apple saying, oh, a texture like Parmesan. And I went, ding, ding, I can make Parmesan with oats. And so when you're experimenting, sometimes you'll have to throw some things out too. It could happen. It's happened to me. I've made more than 1,000 recipes I've developed in the past 10 years. And it's okay. You want to have as little food loss as you can, granted. And for all those recipes, I think there's less than 10 recipes that I was like, we can't morph this into something that's worth having for dinner. And typically that's if something got burnt or overcooked or something like that. So there's always a way to turn it into something else. But what happens as you start to experiment is your mind starts firing up and your creativity really kicks in. And then you start tasting the food more, right? And feeling those textures. And that leads you to that next level of growth in your own cooking. And it's good to have that, even if you only, from now till the end of time, use other people's recipes. Because you still have to decide, is the amount of salt they called for really what I want? Is the amount of heat that they like what I really want, right? So you start even just tweaking and tweaking. I know Joanne and Marilyn, Brandy, tweak away. And so the more you feel comfortable with that, the more you can make it just the way you like it. And Gina says, we love learning the process. Absolutely. And I think I think sometimes it does a disservice for all the bloggers and recipe developers to not want to make mistakes or to try something that may not end up being the best recipe they've ever done on camera. People usually do things that they practice a lot. Even in classes, I like to make up at least one of the recipes during class so that you get a little bit of insight into how things change so you can learn how to do that. And Apple says, I think of cooking as music and I'm looking for harmony. High notes, low notes, melody, that's a great way of thinking about it. And I know that I talk a lot like tomato powder, mushroom powder, those are those darker elements, right? And sometimes rosemary is like in between. It has that lower, darker note, but it has that twinge from the tree that's almost like an acidic note. And the more you get used to kind of training yourself to notice them, because they're always there. You know, we always go and we eat someone else's food or our food and we taste all these things and we're like, that's just the way I want it. And you're just picking it apart a little bit. So instead of hearing the whole symphony, you're looking at the score. I like that, Apple. Okay, guys, well, I have taken plenty of your time. You have been so patient with me, and thank you very much. I will, I think I'll take some photos of this oat Parmesan and see if I can't get that up on the blog. But before, if you're watching right now, again, it was 1 cup of oats, rolled oats that were toasted and ground gently to a coarse grind in your blender or spice grinder, whatever you got, it'll work. And then we put in some nutritional yeast. If you have a large flake nutritional yeast, you could blend those together, or you could blend it, you could do it separate. It's totally up to you. I added some salt. You could add that salt-free blend. And that's about it. And then I think, I don't know about you guys, but I've gone to Whole Foods a couple times, and the food, the prepared food, like even like prepared vegan Parmesan is like twice as expensive as it was before 2020, it seems like. Things have gone up significantly. So making a few things more at home that are easy, like it can be easier. I think that's a way to go. And let's see. Yeah, Joanne, it says, I'm always changing out products in my recipes. And so even if I go to teach a class and I'm teaching recipes from books, I always change them. That's why I don't put the recipes out before the class, so that we can do it together and tweak it together. And a lot of times you guys will ask questions and I'll make it different because you ask questions. And if you attend a class, like this is just a live, which is kind of like mini classes, but the classes over in kathyhester.podia.com are like 2 hours minimum usually. Every once in a while you'll get a 1.5 hours. Sometimes you'll get a 3-hour class. And you get to watch it as many times as you want, so we can create it together and then you can cook along with it another time. And Ashley says, been cooking along with you, hence my silence. I just tossed some into my homemade pasta sauce. We're very excited. Awesome. Yay. You'll have to tell me what you think too, because maybe I'm being harsh on the pesto. If I get a lot of, no, that pesto is awesome, I'll change my mind and I'll put it on. Right now I'm digging the Parmesan. What I want to do is, and I know there's a word for it, but it used to be, this is what I made as a poor student. We boiled pasta, we'd put a little olive oil on it, toss it with Parmesan, and not even fresh herbs, but like dried basil, some rosemary, things like that. And that would be dinner. So I'm kind of wanting to make something kind of like that, obviously without the olive oil. You could use non-dairy milk. We could use aquafaba. That would also get everything to stick on there really good. And thank you, Apple. It was a nice surprise to see you. And thank you, Gina. And Marilyn says it was a fun way to spend the afternoon. And Joanne says, I love making my own condiments. They charge so much for them. And I have everything in my pantry. And don't forget, so when you join Kathy's Cooking Club, you do get to watch all the old classes as long as you're a member. And the membership renews monthly. So you get 2 classes every month with that. But you would be, I have 2 sauce classes. So I make like a fishless sauce. I make Worcestershire sauce, date sweetened ketchup. So you can watch all those classes too. If you don't want to have that kind of commitment, if that's a little much for you, you can also just go in and buy that single class of something that interests you. So that works as well. And I know, and I think you're going to see me more than twice. I'm hoping to do at least one more live before the week's over. So fingers crossed, everybody, and much love. Big hugs. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you guys later this week.